Hi everyone, welcome to Introduction to SPSS. So we did this in class, but I'm just going to throw a video up in case you need to reference it. We're just going to go over very quickly SPSS itself and the different types of views in SPSS so that you can complete your assignments and quizzes. Okay, so once you open up SPSS through the citrix.montclair.edu website, you will see these two screens, one that says like welcome to IBM SPSS and the other one is the untitled SPSS data editor. So what you can just do is like hit new data set and it should open up a new data set for you, and then you can just hit close. And so this is your new data set. I'm just gonna make this just a little bit bigger for us. So you'll see very similar to how Excel looks. You have a bunch of cells and you have these things called bar. Bar is basically short for the variable or variable name. In the bottom left corner, you should be able to see data view versus variable view. So we're going to switch over to variable view right now. You'll see more cells, but you'll actually see the header rows named with a different name. I'm going to go through each and every one of these, and this section is where you would actually type in the different types of variables that we're going to be analyzing. So for example, say you wanted to look at the amount of coffee that each student drinks and then each student itself. So then you can maybe put like student name and then number of coffees. So these are the two variables that you're going to be examining in your study. So essentially that's what this column means. It means name. The one thing with the SPSS is that it doesn't like spaces if you're putting in a name here, so make sure that you're using like underscores or hyphens if you want to separate the words, or just put all the words together. The next thing is type. So if you click on the right side of that cell, it should pop up 3 dots and it'll give you these different variable types. The ones that we're predominantly going to be using in this class is numeric or string types or string variables. A numeric essentially is numericals or numbers. String variables, on the other hand, is anything that's characteristics, letters, or words, etc. So when we're talking about student names, that's not a number. We're talking about names of students. That's categorical. It's a nominal variable. So we're going to make this into a string variable type and hit OK. Before we do that, you'll see that the characters here are 8. I typically like to make this as big as I think most of my names will be for that character set. So I'm just going to make this 50 for now. So hit OK. And you'll see that it changes the width to 50. That essentially is the number of characters that you chose in the first one. So now I'm going to leave numeric type here the same as numeric type for variable 2 because I want to look at the number of coffees, and to give me the number, it's going to be numeric type anyways. I'll leave the width at 8. I don't really want any decimals, so I'm just going to change this to 0. Now label is essentially kind of like a sticky note to yourself to remind you what each variable means, because sometimes it can't be as descriptive with just the name. So what you can put is the name of each student and then the number of coffees each student drinks every day. So as you can see, it's a more widened sticky note for each of your variable names. Now for values, we're not going to do anything for this one right now, but values, we can often use it to determine if we're using like a Likert scale. So when you have a feedback form and you're asked to answer from like strongly disagree to strongly agree, we can assign numerical values for each of these portions of the scale. But we're not using it right now, but this is what this part is. We're not using the missing column right now. Often if you're sending out a feedback form to collect data, people skip questions. You want to put in a missing column so that when your data is getting analyzed, it's not accidentally analyzing this as a 0, rather it's putting it in as a missing data, so it doesn't mess up your actual data analysis. Columns, you can leave that as needed. Align, it's really depending on if you prefer left versus right alignment. And finally, one of the other most important things is measures. So again, if you click on the right side of that cell, it'll ask you which ones do you want. You can choose between scale, ordinal, or nominal. Scale, often used when we're using that Likert scale, for example, strongly disagree to strongly agree. Ordinal is ordinal variable, so in the order of variables that we're collecting our answers for, and then nominal is essentially our name or categorical variables. So for the first one, I'm going to leave it as nominal because it is a categorical variable. It's just the name of the student. And then for the second one, I'm actually going to make this into an ordinal variable because it can be as many coffees or as less coffees as possible. There's not necessarily a scale to it. All right, so then this means that you have your data set available and ready to go right now. You can switch back to the data view, and when you switch back to the data view, you should be able to see your two variables now show up. So now you can just, put in whatever student name, right? And then you can also type in how many copies or whatever amount of data that you've collected for each student. Okay, so this is a simple how to set up SPSS, what are the different things that you need to look out for, and make sure each column and each part is set to the correct setting so that when you're running your analysis, you shouldn't run into any issues.